All right. Well, morning, everybody. Yeah, right on time. Let's see. I forgot my pen, so we're gonna pray first and then jump into this thing. So, has anybody got any prayer requests? Hey, Romeo, good to see you, buddy. Anybody got any prayer requests? Yes, ma'am. You're going to the hospital? Okay. All right. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Oh, really? All right. Well, let's go ahead and pray, and then we'll jump into it. So let's pray together. Heavenly Father, we'd like to thank you, Lord, for letting us all be here today. Thank you so much for the church you've given us, all that you do to continue to allow us to be here. Thank you so much, Lord, that this church is a praying church, and we can come to you and always ask for the things we need, but to always be thankful. Help us to remember that, Lord. Be thankful in everything that we do, no matter what we might view it as good or bad. It doesn't matter if it's of you. Lord, it's always going to be perfect. Thank you for that knowledge, and peace that knowledge brings. And, a couple of prayer requests today, Lord. Miss Christine's going to the hospital. If you would, Lord, just be with the doctors, be with her. Comfort them and guide them through the whole situation that's going on there. For Brother Bob and his brother to get back in church. I know exactly how that is because I'm going through the same thing myself. So if you would, just be with anybody who's relatives or anybody who knows anybody that needs to get them to church. Let it be so, Lord. Convict their heart to where they'll come to you. Be with Brother Kerry today as he's preaching Brother Elvis, as he's sick. Take care of Brother Elvis. Thank you so much for him, Lord, and the time we get to spend there at the edge. Him there. For Brother Irving and his grandson Josh, for his salvation, his health, and the issues that he's going on with Miss Connie and her family and everything there. And Lord, for what we're going to do today, let it be pleasing to you. Let it honor you. May your glory show through everything that we do. Get me out of the way. In Jesus' name we ask it all. Amen. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into what we're going to be doing today. It works all right. So there's our Sunday school thing. We're going to start with our little verse that we try to do for Sunday school every time. Sanctify the Lord God in your heart and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asks you a reason for the hope that is in you, with meekness and fear. Answer. Does anybody know what the word answer means right there?
Don't just keep your mouth shut. Tell them what you know about
Okay.
the Lord.
That's true. What do you think? Huh? Just a response, anything. Response, okay. The word is apologia in Greek, if that helps. Apologetics. Okay. Yes, ma'am. A what? Defense. Perfect. That's exactly what it is. Defend what you believe. If you believe it, then defend it. Who are you supposed to defend it to? Every man. How soon are you supposed to be ready to defend it? Always. Yep. That's what we're going to try and do today, is give you more ammunition, I guess, to defend what you believe, all right? 1 Peter 3:15, yeah. And the way I like to go about things to start them off usually is with creation. And that's kind of the way we're going to do it. One thing I want to throw out, because you mentioned Brother Elvis, it made me think of something. So when we were at the Christian camp, we did the men's prayer retreat or whatever, and Brother Elvis was the teacher. And he gave us all the sermons, whatever. Anyway, he said something that I was like, man, I've never heard that before, and it's great. He lives, the way he was explaining, he lives kind of out there in the woods, so there's not really a whole lot of hustle, bustle, rat race going on there. He's out there, and he says he goes out in the morning, and has his coffee and just sits there and listens to everything that's going on. You can hear the birds and the animals and the bugs or whatever, and then even at night you can still hear like frogs and bugs again, but you hear them all and they're always making the little noises, but you can sit there and just listen to it, listen to the creation. And the way that he explained it to me, and I was like, man, that is great, as he said, all those sound that you hear are all the creatures that are praising God with the voice that they have. And that's exactly what it is. I was like, man, that is just great. So anyway, that is a pretty good thing. If we hear all the stuff that we hear out there, that is everything. God has given a voice to all the creatures, whatever it is. They go out there and praise him. The heavens declare the glory of God. That's what it is. All those creatures are praising God. What a great thing. All right, so let's move on into the creation. And I was asked by a couple different people to continue from last week. So that's what I'm going to do this week, is to continue with questions. And somebody even said part 2, I think. Well, no, Miss Dawn asked for the questions. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So we're going to do part 2 of what we did last week, and this is what we did last week. So we're going to continue. If we look up at the screen there, all those creatures are, what are they, Tristan? Yes, that's what we sometimes will call them, but give me a better word. There we go. That's exactly what they are, dragons. This is our dragons continued, okay? So we're going to continue with the dragons. And last time what I was telling you is, dragons, are they in the Bible? Yes, they are, and they're actually in 34 different verses in the Bible. And 12 of those verses are actually in Revelation when it speaks of dragons in the Bible. Those 12 in Revelation, when they're talking about the dragon, is basically Satan, okay? And that leaves 22 verses that are in the Bible about dragons, most of them. I just now thought of it, but curiously, there's 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, by the way. I don't know if it's connected or not. Anyway, 34 verses, 12 in Revelation. There are 49 verses about serpents, and we included that last time, but I was telling you, sometimes you'll see fiery flying serpents. 5 of the times that you see serpent, it's in Genesis chapter 3 when the serpent comes to Eve and says, yea, hath God said, okay? That's that serpent, and we won't get into that, but 44 other ones are about serpents that you see. Moses raising up the serpent in the desert, fiery flying serpents, whether they're fiery or not, but they're in the Bible, those serpents. All right. And then modern practices, I kind of went over this a little bit, so we're going to just bounce as fast as we can. We have archaeology is a modern practice, which is basically they look for relics that are in the ground, dig them up, kind of like, Indiana Jones, cool. Paleontology is the other one that that they focus on. It's paleontology is more you dig up fossils, you dig up animals, and then you try to piece them back together, and that's kind of how you want to get the history of the world, is what they tell us. And then when we looked at archaeology, they said it started in the 6th century BC. In paleontology, around the 5th century BC is when supposedly the first things were found. But then archaeology became a science in the 19th century AD. And paleontology became a science in the 19th century AD. So just want you to realize that there is a 2,500 year gap of time between whatever they said the first ones were and when it became an actual science. So why is that important? Do what now?
Who was the guy that was there in the 6th century that told us about them starting?
It was somebody from Wikipedia, so it must be true.
He was there.
He was. Oh, hey. All right. Good to see you. Hope you're feeling better from your liquid diet. But hey, I'm totally impressed and envious of that, because I would not do it. I think I would say I would rather die first. But awesome. That's what I'm saying. So good on you, man.
I don't want to cause any damage.
But you're here though, so.
I don't want to, because I'm doing.
Yeah, well. And he came just in time to hear this. So, well, anyway, There's 2,500 year gap of time between when they say archaeology and paleontology started and when it actually became a science. And the reason for that, hopefully I've told you last time, and I think I did, but the reason why they have this 2,500 year gap of time is basically evolution. That's the only reason that's there, because when you find some other things way back in time and they can't explain it until the 19th century when they actually started looking for it, nobody was looking for it in the 5th century AD to build a dragon fossil, skeleton. They weren't looking for that stuff. But it's still there. So that kind of leads you to the point of how did those people draw the things that they drew, build a little not skeletons, but carved out things out of jade and all kinds of other stuff. So it's like, how did they do those things? There was no science there of paleontology or whatever. So why did they do that? Well, the only reason that they were able to do those kinds of things is because they saw them. That's the only reason why. They saw the dragons. They lived with them. The Bible even says it. God says to Job, behold now Behemoth. And when he said it, though, he wasn't saying, hey, have you ever thought about it? He's saying, turn around and look at Behemoth. Job lived with him, and that was after the flood. Today, where we live today. So, anyhow, the evolutionists will tell you that archaeology started way back then because they don't want, or they have no way to explain all these other artifacts that you find. Anyhow, all right. So moving on. The couple that I'm going to throw out here. The Roman sword is probably my favorite one, actually. If you think about a Roman sword, when were the Romans using swords? 100s, 200s, 300s, 400s AD, and a little bit before that. They're using a sword. But on this sword, you can kind of see it at the top a little bit. It's kind of the outline there. And they told me there's a laser. Look, it doesn't work on that. I didn't know. But anyway, kind of right there in the middle, and they drew it underneath just so you can see it. And they're not making this up. They're just showing you that engraving is on that sword. Why would a Roman sword in the 100s AD, why would it have a picture of what we would call a dinosaur today? Why did it have a picture of a dragon on it? It's not like they were just making things up. They didn't have Wikipedia, man. What would they do without it? Well, this is what they did without it.
Yeah, but look at what it says that it was found in Arizona.
I was going to get to that one, but and that would be the next part of it too. Is this actually was found in Arizona, correct? Arizona in 1924. What is a Roman sword from Italy doing in Arizona? Anyone wants to explain that? Could be. Maybe they're what? Vacation, and they brought the sword with them? Could be. But that's another lesson for another day. We're not going to deal with that one today because that'll take all day long. But it's something to think about. Why would this artifact be over there in Arizona? The what? I didn't hear you. Oh, in Arizona, huh? I think somebody was trying to conquer a new territory. If you want to read Genesis 6, chapter 6 and verse 4, you'll probably find out who those people were. But we weren't going to get into that today. Like I said, that will take all day. Anyhow, so there is a Roman sword, which is pretty, it's what it is. They drew a picture of a dragon on there. Why? Because they saw it. All right. More of these. The Chinese calendar. Has anybody seen the Chinese calendar? Have any idea about it? Anybody? Do what? Confusing? Yeah, it kind of is. And I had to do a little bit of research on it because it confused me too. And I was like, now I get it, kind of. But this is what the Chinese calendar looks like. It's got all these different little animals on it. All right? And I'm going to kind of put them in the order that they're supposed to be in. So you'll see a snake down here at the very bottom corner. After the snake is the horse. You can kind of see the picture of it. And then the goat. And then monkey, cool. And then a rooster after that. A dog, okay. A pig. Huh. And then a rat. Okay. An ox. That's what they call it. And then a tiger. And then a rabbit. But if you'll notice in there, there's one more. That's 11 animals. There's one more animal in there. Has anybody seen all the creatures that I just mentioned over there? Seen them, heard about them, looked around, saw them? There's one more. There's a dragon over here in the corner. Now, why would the Chinese people, who are pretty intelligent people, by the way, why would they put all these creatures over here that we know exist? There is no question. Everybody's seen all 11 of those. Why would they put this mythological creature in their calendar? Why? That's correct, because it wasn't mythological. That's why they put it in there, because they saw it, just like everything else. All of those animals, and then the dragon, they put it in their calendar. And the way that I figured out this was kind of neat is the way that it works. So you can kind of see that, and the little circle is in order. The rabbit, the year of the rabbit is in 2023. Okay. And each year it changes to another one. So every 12 years it cycles back around. So 2023 is rabbit, 2011 would have been rabbit as well, if that makes sense. So every 12 years it rotates. The year 2024 goes to the next one. Guess what it is? The dragon. I didn't know until I did this, and I was like, 2024 is the year of the dragon. Huh, that's pretty neat. So, and 2012 would have been the year of the dragon, and 2036 will be the year of the dragon, just like all the other creatures on there. So that's kind of how their Chinese calendar works. I mean, there's more to it, I'm sure, but that's just what I learned about it. But anyway, they put all those animals in there. They put a dragon in there because they didn't see it as mythological. They saw it firsthand. All right. Couple more. The Ica stones. Has anybody heard of the Ica stones? You have? You know what they are?
Oh, they're carvings where people carved different whatever, things that happened in life, things they saw.
Yeah. And there's all kinds of them. So, I mean, there's over 50,000 of these things. Yeah, they're big and they're little and they're all over the place. 50,000 plus. I don't know the exact number, nobody does, but that doesn't matter. They have stones out there that they showed like heart surgery on. Heart surgery, and it looks like the person actually lived according to their stone, I don't know. And brain surgery and all kinds of stuff. And we're always saddled with this idea that people of back then were primitive, okay? But they were doing things that were much more than we've ever done. They're much higher, I don't want to use the word higher, they're much more intelligent than we give them credit for, is what I want to say. And the reason why, I think, is because as you go back farther in time to Adam, I believe, was the smartest man who has ever lived, because he was created directly by God. And when God creates something, he creates it perfectly, so Adam's mind would have been perfect. After the sin, after the fall, everything gradually went a little bit downhill, you know, and that was 6,000 years ago. So 6,000 years of history of Adam and whoever just getting worse and worse and worse. And where we are today, we're not quite as intelligent as those people were. And the Ica stones that are in Peru, they were much smarter. I mean, these are 2,000 years old, 4,000 years old actually. They're pretty old. So those people were a little bit closer to the time of creation than we were. Anyhow, some of the stones, you know, like I said, there's 50,000. They're heart surgery, brain surgery. And these are some other things that they drew on the Ica stones. And they're pretty old, like I said, 4,000 years. You can see on that stone that looks like, what does that look like? Have you anybody seen that creature today? It's what? Oh, yeah, maybe, Triceratops. It looks like what it has is a horn. It's got 4 legs, a shell on its back. So it's like, what is that? How did they know to draw that? There weren't any paleontologists there. There weren't any archaeologists. So how did they know to draw it? They saw it. Here's another one. You can see kind of a little battle thing right there they got going on, that the dragons were attacking each other. I don't think there's a man in that one. But you can see that on the Ica stones, they drew these kind of things. They carved them in this rock. Here's another one. That one is kind of more like a Triceratops, but at the same time, if you can kind of see, there's actually a guy sitting on that one, riding it. Now, why would they draw that? Did they actually ride on those things and he is carrying a spear, so he's probably not killing that creature that he's riding on, but he's using it kind of like a horse to go out there and hunt. I would say that's exactly what he's doing. He's hunting, and he's using what we would call a dinosaur, what the Bible calls a dragon. He's sitting on that thing using it to hunt with. That's what they drew right there. And here's another one. Probably seen that creature before, hopefully. This is kind of looks like a stegosaurus. Got the plates on the back, got the spiky tail. How did they know to draw it with such detail? They saw it. There is no other option. There was nobody around that said, this is what it looks like. Here's our paleontological finds. No, they saw this creature. That's exactly what it is. All right. Okay. Is that the last? Oh, there's one more. Oh, no, there are a couple more. Oh, okay. Forgot about this. So the Tyrannosaurus, I spelled that right. All right, the Tyrannosaurus, the femur is your leg bone, all right? So they found this Tyrannosaurus femur, and then they started studying. What they found, and this is basically a picture, so it's kind of big. It's, taller than me, just his leg bone. But what they found inside that bone were these things. And what it is are red blood cells and white blood cells, and not plastic, but they stretch. Huh? Elasticity, okay. I was going to say plasticity, but either one, it works just fine. So they found these things, these cells that were elastic, that could stretch in the leg bone of this creature. If the Tyrannosaurus died out 65 million years ago, like they'll tell you, how in the world is there anything that's stretchable in there? There is no way. They'll try and come up with all kinds of things. They'll say iron content or whatever. They just want to come up with something. The reason that they want to come up with something is because they said we cannot allow God in the door. We have to come up with something because we know evolution to be true. We know it. Except that everything that I've showed you over the past 2 days, it's not true. It's a lie. It's a religion. And it started all the way back in the Garden of Eden when Satan said, ye shall be as gods. That is the role, that is the absolute reason that everyone wants to believe in evolution, is because that someday we will be gods. Anyhow, that's what they believe, all right? So you can't find this stuff. All the things that I've showed you can't find elastic material. There's no way it's going to last 65 million years. Whatever. All right, and then, I did one more. Dragon skins. Yeah, I know this one's last. All right, so this thing right here is, it looks like fossilized skin, basically is what it looks like. And supposedly, this is 288 million years old. By the way, I had to look at that one twice. I was like, are you sure that was 288 million? No, they didn't say 287, they said 288. But, all the dinosaurs apparently died out at 65 or 66 million years ago. So this fossil is 222 million years older than the last dinosaur. So they said this is not dinosaur skin, this is ammonite skin. Okay. Like I said, Wikipedia knows everything, so it's ammonite skin apparently. But in 222 million years, the skin from that ammonite changed into reptiles, but it looks exactly the same. So 222 million years and it didn't change? That kind of goes against the whole theory of evolution, doesn't it? All right, and this thing is it's actually the front claw of a theropod dinosaur. And you can kind of see that it's got its whole, it doesn't look like a bone. It kind of looks like a hand, but actually what it is the front paw of this creature that was encased in stone. And then they found this skin on it and we're like, how does this possibly continue? Well, I know how it possibly continues. Because it's not 65 million years old. Anyway, all right, and then the last one, if we can look at that, can you imagine that? if you found this right here and said, well, the skin is, I guess, around 65 million years old, so it must be in some kind of area to where it lasts for 65 million years. No, it's the skin, the full skin of a creature that lived. Nothing that we have looks like that today. Nothing. So what is it? It's a dragon. That's what it is. It's a biblical dragon. And we found the skin for it, and we want to say, oh, no, it can't be this because we know evolution to be true. No, we don't. There's proof that it's not. All right? Okay, so that's enough of that. That lasted longer than I wanted it to, sorry. All right, so like I said last time, and this time too, were paleo and archaeologists around, and were they looking for fossils and artifacts in 5 BC? No, they weren't. And they just started creating it around the 19th century AD. Nobody was there to build the fossils for them to look at, and yet you see all the different things that I've showed you that were, it's just obvious. There is no other way to explain it. You can try and science your way out of that and say, oh, no, it can't be that. There's no way. The obvious, most simple answer is, well, the people saw it. How do you not see that the people saw it? Because they don't want to allow God in the door. All right. Okay, and then the last one, dragon stories. So, has anybody heard of a dragon story? You heard one? Yeah, there's a lot of them in there. It's kind of crazy that there's so many dragon stories out there. Yeah. Anyhow, there's a whole bunch of them. And actually, if you look through all of history, you'll see that every culture, basically every culture on the planet, has a dragon story. Every climate on the planet has a dragon story. Every, landscape, whatever you want to call it. Every language, virtually every language on the planet has dragon stories. Why? Probably because there were dragons. It gets to be kind of obvious where it's like, why are you trying so hard to avoid what is just so blatantly obvious? Because they don't want to allow God in the door. That's the only reason. There is no other reason why you have all these stories and all these artifacts and all this fossil stuff out there. It has to be because the people that were living a while back lived with them, and they saw them, and then they either engraved them in steel, which we saw on the Roman sword, they engraved them in rock, and I showed you the other day how the paleographs that are on the side of the walls of that natural bridge, whatever. There's all kinds of different evidences out there that will say, hey, these things live with us. And that was important, that I want you to know that there is evidence out there that refutes everything evolution-wise. Evolution has to try and tell you that we came from 13 billion years ago, I think. You know, the Earth has aged like 120 million years a year since 500 AD or something like that. I don't know. But it ages pretty rapidly if you're not really. Anyway, because they have to keep going back and back and back and saying, we know this to be true. We know it to be true. We can't allow anything. We can't allow special creation because that's God. That's extra. That's supernatural. Okay? Well, guess what? Evolution's supernatural too, because the very beginning of it would be abiogenesis, or life from non-life. It had to start that way. There's no other way around it. And that would be supernatural because we actually proved it scientifically that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Pasteurization, that's what that is, Louis Pasteur. But if you see that, it's like you're believing something that is it's a religion. That's all evolution is. It's a religion. So you can believe one or the other. And I'm just going to give you evidence that says the Bible's true. Show me where it's wrong. And I won't be able to. All right. Anyway, all right. So there's the dragon stories, and there's part 2. All right. So anybody got any questions on that one? Sorry. No? Oh, sure. Jason.
Kind of just input.
Oh, yes.
With them writing the dinosaurs.
Riding them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All animals aren't the same temperament, and
That's true.
it
Yeah. People do write them today.
Yeah, but like, we can see them. But
Yeah.
like, if they didn't exist now and you saw that, you'd be like, that's unrealistic. You're not writing.
No way that happened. Yeah.
I mean, and back then, you could write anything that got you off the ground. They did it.
Yeah, that's true. Horses, elephants even, camels. There's all kinds of stuff we ride. Apparently triceratops too. But yeah, you are right though. If somebody were to find out 1,000 years from now, a picture of somebody riding an elephant, be like, oh man, they didn't ride those things. Yeah, they did. All right. Okay, we're good? All right, so now that we've went through the third iteration of all this stuff, I'm going to get to the timeline today, and I got like 10 minutes, all right? So the timeline is what we're going to go back to. All right, so the timeline. Is it important? The timeline. Why is it important? Foundation, good word. Okay.
All that you're talking about here is it has to have a start. And we have the record. It's right there.
Yeah, we do have the record right there. Any other reasons? She's correct. Yes, sir. That's correct. If God put it in there, it's something we should know about. If it's in the Bible, yeah, we need to be reading it. That's exactly what it's for, and it's correct. Is it important? Yep, God put it in there. Put it in there for all of us. Is it complete? Is it complete? Yeah. We're still living. Are we a part of the biblical timeline? You think so? How? How are we part of the biblical timeline? Okay. I didn't read church age of the Bible, though. I didn't read Age of Grace either. I'm not saying anybody's wrong. I'm just saying, is it complete and are we part of it? Okay.
Because Christ still, we're still here with a purpose, a mission,
Okay.
and that's part of the time.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we are, it's not complete, we're not finished.
Where?
I'm not
Okay.
in heaven, I haven't reached my reward.
Yeah.
But I love the verses that where even Jesus himself talks about those who will in the future be a part of things. I can't give you the exact words.
I know, Shane.
Yeah, I always underline those things because I'm like, that's me, that's me.
Yeah. I would agree. We're part of the timeline. Christ hasn't returned. Guess where we are? We're waiting for Christ to return. When that happens, is the biblical timeline going to be over when Christ returns? No. Is the biblical timeline going to be over? No. How do you get an infinite God's timeline to stop? You don't. It's just going to keep on going. We're just in this little section of time. There will be a new heaven and a new earth, and we'll have a new body with no more pain, suffering, death. We'll get into all that. Is it complete? Well, what we have in the Bible, complete to an extent, all right? And the biblical timeline is not fully complete because it will never be. But what we do have, we can study because God gave it to us. That's exactly why we should study it, all right? All right, so like I said, I don't remember. Where the timeline starts as an absolute year. So we can't get the actual date, but we know that Adam was born in the year 0, right? Because that's just when creation is. We know it, and as time is concerned, that's when it started, at the creation of Adam. All right, so, and we can use what's written in the Bible to go farther and farther all the way. And it gets a little bit difficult in Judges, but fourth year of Solomon's rule is another one. Fourth year of Solomon's rule. In that year, he started building the temple, and that's pretty safe dating, because almost all the secular books and everything else, they'll all kind of agree this is the fourth year of Solomon's rule, which is about 986 BC. Yeah, BC. So if you go back from that, and BC and AD are backwards, if you want to call it that. So in the fourth year is about 986, so that means his first year would have been 990, okay? So you have to go back that way. It's a little bit different. But 990 would have been the first year of Solomon's rule, and we know Solomon reigned for 40 years, and his dad, who was David, reigned for 40 years. So we know David's reign began 40 years before 990, and that would be 1030 BC. And then we know the guy before David was Saul, who reigned for 40 years, so Saul's reign was 1070 AD or BC. And that's kind of how it would work. All right? Let's see. Oh, and that verse right there, 1 Kings 6:1, tells you the fourth year of Solomon's rule is when he started to build the temple, okay? That's what that verse is. All right, so let's move on. Adam, like we said, was born in the year, and absolute is what I'm going to use. So absolute is where we start from. The year is 0, 0 absolute. That's when Adam was born. Okay? Do what? Wasn't really born, and was Adam a baby? Okay? All right, I could change that birth to created. Created year 0. Did Adam have a belly button? I didn't put that question up here. I'll let you think about that. So, at age 130 of Adam's life, something happens. Does anybody know what it is? Huh? Okay? Seth. Correct. Seth is born in the year 130 B absolute. All right? It's Adam, and it says right here in the Bible. Probably should have a turn there, but that's okay. Genesis chapter 5, I think, would be the best place to look at this. Adam lived 130, this is Genesis chapter 5, verse 3 is where it's starting. Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness after his image and called his name Seth. Okay? So Adam was 130 when Seth was born in the year absolute. Seth was born in the year 130 absolute. Adam was created in the year 0. Very nice. All right. At age 930, something else happens to Adam. He does. So we have Adam being created in the year 0, and he's living to the year 930, or absolute. All right? So we have now 930 years of biblical history saying this person lived during this period of time. And now we can use that to grow our biblical timeline from there. All right? Firstborn. I think we did this question last time. Who was Adam's firstborn? Who? Cain. Cain? Who said possibly? Why would you say possibly? He did have other sons and daughters. So was Cain the firstborn? Probably. I don't know. Nobody else knows. It's not written in the Bible, but that's okay. In any case, Cain was probably the firstborn, but we don't know because the Bible doesn't say that. And probably a good reason why the Bible doesn't say that. Because we're not supposed to use what we learn in the Bible and worship the creation more than the Creator. It's supposed to be God first. All right. So I've done the timeline before, and the way that I'm going to do this now is a little bit different. So, Adam, we're going to go a little bit more in depth with each person that we talk about, okay? So, Adam first. How long was he in Eden? How long?
Long enough to mess up.
That's correct. Till he got kicked out. Do we know how long it was? No, we don't know exactly how long it was. But we can do a couple things from that to know, well, he was probably in there. Was he in there for 130 years? No, because that's when Seth was born. But Cain and Abel were born before that. And it also says that Adam had sons and daughters. So, if Cain and Abel were old enough, or Cain was old enough to kill Abel, so he was probably in his 20s or 30s. You know what I mean? Is that a stretch? You know, he wasn't a teenager. I wouldn't think he was a little bit older than that. So if we know that, then we can go back farther and say, well, If Cain was in his 30s, then Adam had Cain and Abel once they were actually outside the garden. So that pushes back the garden timeline. If Cain killed Abel when he was 30, we'll say 30, that means that Adam was about 100 years old, absolute, when he had Cain. Okay? Is that making sense? I'm not saying, and it's not written down, but we can use that information to know, well, it's probably around that time. If he was in Eden for however long he was in Eden, I don't know. It could have been 90 years. It could have been 90 days. It could have been 1 day. It could have been 1 hour. We don't know. But that's okay that we don't know. But we know that he was in Eden. Do we not? And Eden was a place that they wanted to go back to. I shouldn't have said that because the next question is on the entrances to Eden. When God, or after Adam and Eve violated what he was supposed to do, the design of God, after he did that at the entrances to Eden, well, before we get there, how many commands were there in the Garden of Eden? Huh? 1. What was it? 2. What were 2? Okay, that would be 2. Is that all he said? Be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Was that a command from God? If Adam did not have dominion over all the animals, would that have been a sin? Yes. God said, do this. There is one negative command. God said, don't eat of the tree, the knowledge of good and evil. Well, he also said, be fruitful and multiply. If they didn't do that, that would have been a sin. If they did not or had dominion over the fish of the sea and fowl of the air, if they didn't do that, that would still be a sin because it was going against the command of God. We have a tendency to say, oh, there was only one command in the Garden of Eden. No, there wasn't. There was a whole bunch. There was one negative command where God said, don't do that. But he gave them a whole bunch of positive commands, said, do this, do this, do this. And if they didn't do it, they would have been sinful. All right, entrances to Eden, and we're out of time. So we got a little bit farther in the timeline, so I got 3 questions asked. Anyhow, no, not that one. Don't worry about that one. Until next time, okay? So we're going to do hopefully the timeline next time, and then we're just going to keep going with the timeline, okay? And we're, over on time a little bit. And I think we're doing a choir today, so if you're in the choir, go ahead and jump in there, and then let's take a little break, and we'll go on to our next part, all right? Appreciate y'all sitting here and listening to all this.